Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Tactical Tuesdays. I'm Tyler Strom with Legacy Volleyball Club. Today we are going to talk about serving. Serving is a skill taught from the moment you step on the volleyball court, and with the help of our 13s coach CJ, we are going to go through 3 different kinds of serves, as well as why they are effective and how to teach them. Alright, much like serve-receive, we're going to go quickly through a couple of concepts that apply to all players at every skill level. Start slow, finish fast is an easy way to talk about building momentum. Whether you're serving or attacking a volleyball, you always want to be building that momentum, which will allow you to contact the ball with greater force. Especially for younger players who may not have a ton of upper body strength, this will be especially important. Bow and arrow is just a general term when referring to your form just before contact. As you can see in this picture, the two actions are almost identical. We want to make sure your hips are getting open and your arm is drawing from well behind your body in order to create the type of force that you will need to serve the ball effectively. Finish to target is just a basic reminder that if you are trying to serve to a zone, that you will need to finish your hand to that zone. Much like a catcher trying to throw out a runner at second in baseball, the catcher must finish to second base. If he finishes his throw towards third base, that's exactly where the ball is going to go. The same parallels can be drawn with serving a volleyball. Making good hand contact is incredibly important because it will give the volleyball the energy it needs to float. When we contact the ball off to the side, or too far underneath it, we put ourselves at a much greater risk to miss our serve. Our last concept revolves around having a good toss and driving through the ball. This is probably the most important of the concepts. Whenever we see players struggling with their serves, it usually boils down to one of two things. Either they have an inconsistent toss, or that they're not driving their hips through the contact. Both of these can be worked out at any time and will dramatically help struggling servers. Now we're going to watch Coach CJ hit a couple of standing float serves. With this serve, we want to focus on standing with your opposite foot in front of you, holding that ball with your opposite hand and making sure your arm's bent. We want to contact that ball using that bow and arrow stance that we talked about. Make sure our toss is over our hitting shoulder and also in front of us so we can go get the ball. Hit the ball with the palm of our hand and make sure that we are finishing every single time. Just taking a look at this serve again in slow motion, you can see with his setup, his opposite foot is in front. He does get to that bow and arrow stance that we talk about, and he is finishing, as you guys can see, every single time with that hand high towards his target. Like most things volleyball, this serve is very easy to learn and not as easy to master. The more you make contact with the center of the ball and keep that hand firm, the more you will see that ball start to float. And that's, as you can see with what CJ's doing right here. A lot of these balls will start off in zone 6 or start off in zone 5 and then move to other zones. Moving on to our next serve, the jump float is just a little bit more advanced version of the float and allows the server to put a little more behind the ball with relative ease. This is where that slow to fast concept we talked about earlier comes into play. We want to make sure that you are always still building that momentum. A consistent toss also becomes a little bit more difficult with the jump float. Continue to make sure that that toss stays over your hitting shoulder and is in front of you on contact. One final thought on the jump float. We started to see this serve become more and more popular in the last couple of years, not only because it allows the athlete to hit the ball harder, but also because it allows the athlete to contact the ball at a higher point, giving the passing team less time to react due to its flat nature. We encourage our younger teams to actually get used to the jump float and practice the jump float because of how successful it can be at early age groups. The last serve we're going to discuss is called the topspin. When done correctly, this is probably the most difficult ball to pass due to its speed. However, it is also the most error-prone. This serve can be done using a 2, 3, or 4-step approach depending on how much room you have behind the serving line. The key to this serve is to make sure that you are contacting behind the ball. The best way to train that is to make sure that you find the bottom of the ball as you make contact. You will also have to make sure that you finish your wrist through much like you would an attack to ensure that that ball creates that topspin motion. In closing, when it comes to serving, coaches primarily focus on 2 things: how aggressive the serve is and how consistent the serve is. You could have the best serve in the world, but if you can only get it in 2 out of 5 times, the cost outweighs the benefit. That being said, parents constantly ask, how important is serving? During my time at Central Michigan, we had a walk-on who was brought on primarily because of her serve. and although she didn't see a ton of playing time during the season, she was able to play in the NCAA tournament because of that serve. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed it, please click the subscribe button to see all of our different videos at Legacy. That's it for Tactical Tuesday. Thanks guys, stay safe.